rise, civil libertarians. Amy warned me about this last week. She said, have you read this Wall Street Journal article? And I said, I'm not worried about this supposed program by the U.S. Marshals Service through the DOJ to ping my cell phone with Cessna aircraft over major metropolitan areas, scooping up tens of thousands of cell phone records during a single flight, and it's been going on since 2007? I said, I'm not worried about that. You always see somebody on the grassy knoll. You're a conspiracy theorist from way back.
Well, no, I see Cessnas in the skies around Chicago wondering why are they so close to the downtown buildings.
Well, now let's talk to an expert because apparently there is more to this than we initially thought. Justice Department scooping up data from thousands of cell phones, fake communication towers deployed on airplanes. They trick your cell phone into thinking, oh, I'm into a new cell area, so I will ping the cell tower so they know where I am. Well, that's great if you're looking for a drug dealer or the next member of Al-Qaeda or ISIS. Not so good, I guess, when they're scooping up our information. And does it ever really go away? Well, let's start there. Former FBI specialist on terrorism and counterintelligence, also a consultant to the U.S. Army and the U.S. Department of State and Fortune 500 companies, teaches at Rose State College. We welcome his expertise. David Sid is here. Good morning, David. How are you, sir?
Good morning, John. I'm fine, thank you.
First, thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Have I explained what this system is and how pervasive it is?
You have. What the system does is it captures two things, the cell phone number and the general location of the cell phone, apparently down to 3 meters of accuracy. Once they get that information, apparently what they're doing is running it against databases of known terrorists and criminals, and if they find something, then they pursue it, getting a warrant and that sort of thing.
Well, how often, I know you said that they collect this data by sending Cessna aircraft up in the air. How often do they send up these airplanes?
You know, that's a very good question, Amy. I don't know, but I think that there are a couple issues with these programs. One is, are they constitutional? And the second is, are they useful? Now, as a former operator and in that world, I can tell you that if you have specific information that a bad guy is in a general area, I think it would be a wonderful tool. But I think collecting vast amounts of information indiscriminately isn't really that useful. Most intelligence failures we have, things we miss, are due to poor analysis, not poor collection. So they must be like having your mouth on a fire hose now in the government, getting all this information.
So what you would want to do is, okay, so we think the bad guy is somewhere in Chicago, traveling out of town right now on the Kennedy or the Ryan, so heading northwest or heading due south. Okay, so we set up our Cessna, and we trick everybody's cell phone into essentially reconnecting with this false cell phone tower. Then, instead of collecting everybody's number, what you say would still be very useful is just to see if that fugitive's number pings our cell phone tower. Then we know which direction this guy's heading.
Precisely.
But how do we do that without collecting everybody's number?
Well, the collection of the numbers isn't so much a problem as it is what they do with this information. You can't focus on one number specifically unless you have different equipment. It's very difficult to do. You have to triangulate it, and it's a very complex process. By using these devices, if they were looking for one number in the specific, they could certainly enter that number into the program, and the program would ignore all the other numbers except the one they're looking for. That's the one they could capture. That would make sense to me.
And then you want the system to essentially self-edit and dump all the numbers back into vapor.
Yes, correct. That's correct.
But can they do that? I mean, will they do that is the big question.
Well,
I think they can.
They's us. They's
us. It's the government. No, it's the
us.
Justice Department. What do you mean it's us?
You talk about the government, like, the government. It's us. We've put these things in place. We fund these to go get the bad guys. It's terrific technology. I love it. I'm not quite so worried about it.
Yeah, but until you're I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but when don't you think I'm crazy? There was a well-known mobster in Chicago who called my phone because he wanted to talk to me, and I had this strange pinging and like a click sound on my phone for a long time. Am I crazy, or am I right in my assertion that the government was listening to my phone calls?
Mr. Sid?
Well, it's entirely possible, but quite honestly, Amy, if they're listening to your phone and they find out who you are and why you're talking to the person, they're not going to have any interest in you. But
they lost interest after a few weeks, but they were there. I'm telling you.
Aim, clicking on your phone is probably bad cell reception. Stop it.
Sid, am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy.
Thank you.
Sid, you don't know her like I do. She is, in fact, crazy. She's an overreactor from way back. But look,
well, these folks who are overreactors, as you call them, are good for us because we have to be very sensitive to civil liberties issues. And I think this might go to the Supreme Court ultimately. The ACLU is talking about filing a challenge to it. And if they do, that would be a good thing. Let the court decide that finally, once and for all, whether it's constitutional.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind that they're checking my cell phone, but get a warrant or talk to me about it rather than just invade my privacy and take my cell phone numbers.
The bigger issue here, as Mr. Sid is referencing it, is this metadata collection. In other words, if in fact, do we need the technology to grab everybody's information if in fact we're going after one guy? Now, see, the NSA just cut him off because he was getting into some sensitive areas and they just went ahead and chopped that phone line. The Cessna flew over Mr. Sid, wherever he is, pinged his cell phone, got it down to 3 meters, and he's probably vapor now. But, sir, we're sorry to see that you're gone to your just reward with your Heavenly Father, but we appreciate your service to our country. Maybe you are right, Aim. Maybe they are listening.
They are.
Maybe.
And I'm not calling him back on my phone.
Yeah, Caesar, you call him back on your phone if you want.
John, you take one for the team. Oh, why don't you try emailing him?
Keep us out of it, okay? Write it down on Monday, November 17th at 9:14. I said, maybe Amy was right.